Have to go live. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee and Football presented by BKCW. I clicked the wrong button this morning. My apologies for that. I gave the guys like 2 seconds heads up that we were going live without the countdown. But I'm Blake Monroe, where I'm joined by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton. Tell us where you're checking in from, what you're drinking. We are 64 days away from kickoff. So be sure to tell us who your favorite number 64 is as well. And Bobby, you got a special guest lined up.
Yeah, Kasey Studdard going to join us here between 8:30 and 9 today. I look forward to hearing from an old number 64 that is one of those guys that I think is a ultimate Texan at heart, I think is a good way to put it. A lot of good stories with Kasey, a good guy, hard-nosed football player, just unbelievable. Maybe the best 64, though, is one of Jerry's favorite Longhorns of all time, and that's Kasey Hampton. Jerry grew up not 30 minutes from where Kasey Hampton played his high school ball. And Jerry, your tales of Kasey Hampton go way back and are very true. But a number of 64s, the current number 64 on the roster is a walk-on, by the way, named Robert Sweeney. I believe he's from Highland Park High School originally. But he is a walk-on at the University of Texas wearing number 64.
Played at Highland Park.
We'll have more on that as we talk with Kasey Studdard a little bit later today.
Well, I just got to add in, though. I mean, look, Kasey Hampton. I know the first question I'm asking Kasey Studdard, by the way. But Kasey Hampton, to this day, and it's probably not fair to kids, is the guy that I judge every interior defensive lineman against because I've never seen one better.
Yeah.
In high school. And the rankings didn't necessarily reflect it back then. It was a different time. But Kasey Hampton had the best motor of any interior defensive line prospect I've ever seen. And that carried over to college. There is no way you make 101 tackles as a nose guard in a college season in a 12-game season if you don't have the best motor that's ever been. It's just not humanly possible. And then to go on and overcome 2 ACLs, have the career he did in the NFL. We've had Kasey on the show before. He's hilarious. We'll get him on again. But that first ACL, Bobby, I'm sure you were at the stadium when I was. He was celebrating a TFL against Rice.
At Rice Stadium. And
tore his ACL on the jump, the celebration jump.
The only kickers are supposed to do that, Kasey.
Yeah.
Only kickers are supposed to celebrate and tear their ACLs. No, I know what Kasey Studdard would say to that. He goes, he wouldn't get 101 against me. I'd find a way to.
Yeah.
Kasey would have the other Kasey would have ended up injured somehow because Kasey Studdard ain't letting a nose tackle get 101 tackles on him. That would have been fun to watch. Hey, by the way, yesterday we've been talking about recruiting a lot. Obviously, it is the height of recruiting season. Xavier Crowell, the running back out of Jackson, Alabama, yesterday did pick Alabama sort of as expected. We were following that because Texas made it somewhat interesting for him. Now, what does Texas do this year? And what do they do next at running back? Frankly, right now, no one else on the board really with an offer. We'll have to wait and see exactly what Texas decides to do. Do they stay just exclusively on Xavier Crowell and just ignore the commitment and keep recruiting him? Do they go for another player, perhaps in the state of Texas? They haven't offered any other running backs in Texas quite yet. Do they go to the portal or do they find someone that wants to reclassify? Jerry's talked about that. We'll talk a little bit more about recruiting. Also, our CJ Vogel is down in, I think it's Lafayette this year. It's not in Thibodeau, right? Isn't it at Louisiana Lafayette this year? The Manning Passing Academy is down there. Arch did not participate yesterday. He will participate today. This is Austin Simmons, the quarterback that's going to Ole Miss. They were throwing it around. I think we're going to see.
Be the starter at Ole Miss. Going to be the starter at Ole Miss.
Yep, and he's a terrific prospect, young guy. Here's Sawyer Robertson. CJ was down there. He may check in with us a little bit later today as well, but we will see Arch Manning throw a little bit today as well here. Sam Levitt with a big ball here. This is Jerry's got a man crush on Sam Levitt.
I think he's going to be a first-round pick. I really do. I think he's headed there. I do.
Haynes King got that ball out quick there, I thought.
Yep.
He's got a little bit. He's always had Haynes King has always had a funky throwing motion. That didn't look that funky. Maybe he's worked on that this offseason to try to get himself a little bit better prepared.
I need to answer a question real quick.
Go ahead.
Six, Sark After Dark. 6 is
how many black polos does Jerry have?
With the OTF, I have 6. By the way, for the chat, for recruiting, look, for those struggling, I give you 2 options. Okay, you have the Mando. Okay, it's if you're sweating it out, or if you need to start sweating it out, there's the Tito's. And if you need something with your Tito's, there's this Dole pineapple mango. You mix it together, put a few ice cubes in the cup, stir it up, and have one of these for breakfast, brunch, or dinner, and it'll help get you through recruiting season.
It's coffee and football, Jerry Hamilton. If anybody's starting before 9 a.m. and not on vacation, we may have issues there. Hey, in all seriousness, I want to say thank you to one of our sponsors before we get going and into our regular show here. Our sponsor is BKCW Insurance. Did your business have a frustrating insurance or employee benefits renewal? Most likely you didn't hear from your agent all year, and then right before it was time for your business to renew, your agent delivered the bad news of a rate increase. When this happens, the agent is providing no value and you're stuck in what we call the insurance trap. BKCW, operating out of its headquarters in Austin and owned by a UT grad, helps take you out of the insurance trap by providing you with actual risk management consulting, not just price quoting. They monitor your situation throughout the entire year so that you can lower your insurance costs and effectively manage your company's risk. BKCW has helped some of the most well-known construction companies, restaurant groups, school districts, breweries, nonprofits across Central Texas escape the insurance trap, and it all starts with a free risk assessment. Go to bkcw.com or send an email, info@bkcw.com, to get started with a free risk assessment or claims audit and escape the insurance trap. Again, info@bkcw. That is 512-250-5055.
Thank you, Bobby. All right, guys, let's talk a little more recruiting. Obviously, the chat is very lively this morning when it comes to recruiting. So, Jerry, I'm going to let you take it away.
Yeah, so we'll bring up the graphic for the decisions coming up, as we will every show, and then we'll knock guys off after they decide. But there's 3 decisions today. I will be surprised if one of those goes Texas' way today. Of those 3, Malachi Lee, Texas will recruit through the whistle in December. James Johnson will get very interesting tomorrow because I kind of told you guys 3 days ago, there's somebody that's going to announce on the 28th. That was James Johnson. Early in the week, it was Georgia. Yesterday, a little more Texas chatter. We'll see where that goes. I think that could go either way. Xavier Griffin, obviously Texas has been confident. Alabama's been confident. That's on Sunday. We'll see which way that goes. So those are the 5 for the rest of the week. I guess Sunday's technically the start of next week. July 2nd, Kendall Gurville. I think Texas has done very well there. Trenton Henderson, I think Florida leads Texas there. And LSU, Kasey Studdard on the 3rd. I think Texas has done well. We'll include Bryce Perry Wright on there because he OV'd to Texas. But since Richard Wesley committed, I don't see that one. John Turntine, I think Texas is doing really well. Finley and Lott, I don't see. Jamar Brown will be a December recruitment for, even though he commits now. Jamarian Carlton, I think Texas has done well with. Smoke Matthews, hearing a little more Texas and South Carolina, but that'll be a battle. Caden Prothro of Georgia doesn't get him, they'll throw up their hands. They should get him. Hezzy Kent, I think wants to go to Texas, but I think there's some people that have made some really big pushes there. So we'll see what Hezzy Kent decides here. Was that 15, 16 days out? And then you have a couple of guys for sure that will still have decisions coming up in early July. Felix Ojo, which I think Texas is in a good spot for, and Tyler Atkinson, who Texas has a real shot at. And then I think Devon Benjamin is looking more like late July, early August decision. That's Oregon or Texas. And we'll see. We'll see which way these go on Saturday and Sunday for the Longhorns.
Good stuff there. All right.
Hey, Jerry, you I got to ask you. You reported Texas. There's been initially there was a crystal ball or RPM, whatever they call those things nowadays, from another national analyst that said James Johnson to Georgia. Yet yesterday, you've talked about how Texas, you think, has surged back in this recruitment for the young man out of Miami Northwestern High School.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see where it goes on Saturday. I think that one's gone back and forth this week. We'll see. Some people put in picks earlier this week for Georgia. We'll see if they remain with Georgia. So we'll see what happens there. Again, all those picks were made 2 days ago. Yesterday, we'll see. I think it could go either way on this, and I'm not saying Texas is going to win it. And I'm not saying Georgia's not going to win it, but what I'm saying is that one was in the balance yesterday.
It's interesting because you wonder kind of, Texas right now, with 3 commitments along the defensive front, or actually interior defensive tackle, you think they might go as high as 5? I mean, we thought at one time they could go even to 6. You think they might still go to 5, correct?
If Johnson and Gerville wanted to commit, absolutely. They're not turning either one of those guys down. No chance.
Okay. Got it.
Hey, Jerry, people are wanting you to clarify a little bit. Go back a second, because I guess you were talking about Lott and Finley, and people are kind of freaking out a little bit. Like Space City Wrangler says, did he say that he's not feeling it with Finley? Frioli 93. You said Lott and Finley you don't see, so is Texas not likely to get either of them?
As of this morning, I don't see it, but we'll see. We'll see if that changes in the next few days on Caden Finley.
I got a sneaky suspicion. This is just my sneaky suspicion. Texas is spending more of its NIL money in the trenches.
Yes.
Than they are at the skill position. Outside of quarterback. That's my suspicion at this moment. I can't verify that 100%, but that's kind of the feel I am getting here. We'll see if that continues to be the case. But Texas, and I wrote a piece today. If you put that graphic back up,
yep,
Jerry or Blake, look how many defensive players Texas is still in on that are national recruits.
Yeah.
I mean, look, you could already make the argument that Texas is a national team on offense. Their quarterbacks from Louisiana, maybe the top running backs from Florida, and 2 of their backups are from Arizona and Louisiana. Their top 3 wide receivers going into 2025 are all from out of state. 2 Californians and DeAndre Moore and Emmett Mosley, and 1 from Missouri. The top tight end, Jack Indries, is from California. You got a right tackle that starts from California as well. So Texas already on offense, I think, is a national team. On defense, it's a little bit different. Other than the transfers that have come in at defensive tackle, there's really at this point only 3 out-of-state guys that are really making a dent so far. Leon Galafau, obviously one of them. Derek Williams, who was injured a lot last year out of Louisiana, and then also Wardell Mack is vying for time at that nickel position. But look at a lot of these guys are defensive players. James Johnson, Xavier Griffin, Kendall Gerville, Trenton Henderson, all out-of-state big lineman type. Then you have the only one that wouldn't be is Smoke Matthews, who's a corner, but another defensive player. Right, Jerry?
Yeah.
I think that's what we're maybe seeing a little bit of. Texas going a little bit heavy on NIL in that category or in those categories. We'll see. We'll see if they're right. That's why we follow and track recruiting. But I do think that they're spending more on the lines of scrimmage right now than they are at other spots per se, and maybe a handpicked 1 or 2 guys at DB, linebacker, etc. Tyler Atkinson's not on that. Obviously, he'd be in that category as well.
And by the way, I want to add, though, a recruitment could flip in an hour at any time. So whatever
it did with Damari Simeon on Wednesday.
Whatever said this morning on a kid who's announcing today, heck, it could change. It could change by lunchtime. So we'll see if anything changes. But I think that's where we're at this morning.
There are last-minute negotiations. That is where we're down to, and it's beyond just some of these kids have multiple schools they would like to go to. I mean, I grew up in this industry where there might be a kid that's literally torn between Texas and OU or Texas and Texas A&M, and they're making last-minute decisions. Well, if somebody puts another 50 or 100 grand on the table, that might sway your decision at the last minute.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so hard in this day and age to really predict, other than you can get a feel for the schools it's down to. But to Jerry's point, when somebody puts that little finger on another finger on the, Lady Justice that tips the scales, that can happen.
Hey, another question that we're getting a lot in the chat is apparently Derek Cooper was decked out in Texas gear yesterday, and Sarah O here, Cooper was wearing all Texas gear yesterday. Does that mean anything? LL says, why was he decked out in Texas gear last night?
I don't put much stock in all that stuff. Texas will recruit guys in the season, though. There's recruitments that will go into the season.
My wife is going to be happy. He is from Chaminade, Madonna.
Yes.
He has a commitment date of July 12th, Jerry.
Yeah.
I think, to your point, this one may commit on July 12th to like kind of save his place in line. But if he's still doing that kind of stuff, he may be looking for something else. Yes, my wife got me this hat. She's excited about it. It's Brian Robeson's store, Tackle Addict. Yeah,
nice.
Really nice. Yep.
I like it. I like it a lot. All right, guys, we got some super chats that we need to get over to this morning. We'll knock this one out real quick from Splendid Daddy. Can Arch get on OTF when there's 16 days left?
Probably not, but we can replay CJ's interview from Arch's media today at Manny Academy on the 16th day.
There you go.
Actually, hold on. When we get to 16 days, that'll be after SEC Media Day, so we'll have plenty of stuff to replay for y'all.
There you go.
Hopefully we get to show him in practice.
Yeah.
How about that? That might be even better.
Yeah, that would be. The newest father in our chat, Joshy Manning, father of one, put in a super chat. He said, William Major, the real name for the kid, told me today that Turntine will be a Longhorn. Can you confirm?
Good job.
I think that Jerry has said this. I think Texas is in a great position for John Turntine. I think that saying anything is done is inaccurate. But Texas is in a good position right now for John Turntine and needs to get it across the finish line. Bottom line.
The one thing I would have never thought I'd have to say is, because of where it started with John Turntine, is that he's an underrated recruit nationally, but he is. We've had him a 5-star all along for a year and a half here, and it hasn't changed and won't change. We'll let the other people circle back in the industry and move back where they need to be.
And then a couple more this morning. This one from Devon. Thank you, Devon. He says, what do you think the main reason is for the misses at running back?
Could be a multitude of things. I think first of all, Tashard Choice had done such a good job of getting into these players' minds at an early time, whether it was Javian Osborne out of Forney, whether it's Xavier Crowell out of Alabama, the Amari Latimer out of Georgia. He had done such a good job, and the players were already familiar with him. Then all of a sudden, he's gone, and he is their connection to Texas. And Chad Scott, not unlike Kenny Baker this time last year, because people are like, whoa, we would have, if Bo Davis would have stayed, we would have gotten Dylan Battle and, XYZ player. Who's the one from Lufkin, Jerry? I can't remember his name. We would have gotten all these guys. Well, guess what? it takes time for these new coaches to build relationships and trust. Now, Kenny Baker ultimately was able to do that with two guys that committed elsewhere. Josiah Sharma had committed to Oregon, and Myron Charles had committed to Florida State. That changed over time. That's what Chad Scott's got to do. Now, next year, it should be easier for him because he's going to have built more of a rapport. So you can't necessarily judge right from the get-go. That's just so hard because I guarantee you Alabama's running back coach has been recruiting Xavier Crowell for more than 6 months. I mean, literally, Chad Scott's only been recruiting Xavier Crowell for 6 months, right? Derek Cooper. I mean, all those guys, very short period of time. Notre Dame's running back coach, how long has he been recruiting Javian Osborne? By comparison. So even though the guy's in state, he has more familiarity with an out-of-state coach. And that is one of the reasons why Sark doesn't like a lot of high turnover with his staff. It does affect recruiting. It absolutely does.
And then our next super chat this morning, fellas, from Jason Hablinski. Thank you, Jason. He says, last year we invested in 2 5-star wide receivers and a big-time tight end. This seems like roster management. We need investment in offensive line and front 7.
I think that's what we've said. I think, Jason, that's what they're doing. I mean, Jerry and I can talk about it until we're blue in the face, but until folks recognize and look at that list and say, wow, that's a big – you get James Johnson over Georgia and Miami and Florida. You get Kendall Gurville over Georgia, Florida, Miami. Tyler Atkinson, Xavier Griffin. Those are not – I don't know what the exact NIL number is, but I know this much. It ain't small. So there has to be an outlay of resources. And I will say this too. I mean, there are certain positions that are easier to find in the portal than others. And I want to take this minute, if y'all don't mind. Florida State, Blake, will you please look up an article? Chris Hummer, a guy that I used to work with. He was a former editor of the Daily Text, sports editor of the Daily Texan. He writes for 24/7 Sports now. He wrote an article yesterday. Please look at his Twitter and look at the Florida State section of it. If you've ever wanted to know why players need collective bargaining, this is why. Florida State, in its rev share agreements with players, are attempting to get them to sign agreements that say they have the right to renew the agreement in 1-year increments in perpetuity as long as their NCAA value is there. And at the same rate they currently have them at. So if you sign with Florida State and you're a $100,000 cornerback, what happens if 3 years later you're an All-American? See, Florida State says, well, we have you. Yeah, we have you for the next 3 years, no matter what. That is so wrong. If you're a player, you're stuck. I mean, if I play for Florida State, I literally would file a lawsuit tomorrow on that proposed contract. I mean, that's like saying you're a young pup at a Fortune 500 company. Okay, would any Fortune 500 company offer that to an employee? No person would take that. It's really, really crappy of that university to try. I mean, and I hope, the other one that's going on right now is that they want these buyouts. Well, a buyout is typically a portion of your salary, not your whole salary. I mean, the Big Ten wants, if they're paying somebody $500,000, they want the buyout to be $500,000 for the team that's buying out the player. I mean, it is. Absolutely brutal and horrible, and it's not what NIL is. It's pay for play. That's what they're trying to get into here. And if it is, they need to collectively bargain. good players will be transferring out of Florida State. But here's the problem with that: they can't do it this season. They're going to have to sign this revenue share agreement or negotiate out of it. And I don't think they're going to be able to negotiate out of it. So because the portal is already closed, they've lost their window to transfer because this is an onerous contract. They're losing. If they transfer out, they can't play this year. They're losing a year of salary.
I'm a little different, and I'm not saying the full amount. I don't have a problem with the colleges with the buyouts with other colleges though, because if you're paying a kid $500,000,
I didn't say the full amount contract for $100. I get it. You can't make it $500 and a $500,000 buyout. So then the player would only get, I don't know, he would have to the winning team, the next team would have to pay $1.1 million just to give the kid a $100,000 raise. That's not right. That's collusion. That's bullshit.
I mean, I'm not saying the full amount, but I think there needs to be something in place to keep guys from just being recruited into the portal all the time. There has to be a penalty of some sort for that.
A mediator would say 5 to 10% is fine. Not 100%, Jerry.
Like I'm not saying the full amount, but I woun't even be upset with 50% because
holy cow. So wait a minute.
Yeah.
Jerry, so if you're Arch Manning and you're making $1 million a year, I mean, we think he's making more than that, but he may not be making it from Texas NIL, but just take Arch Manning. He's making $1 million a year from Texas. And you say there's a $500,000 buyout. Okay. Whatever team gets him is going to have to pay at least 1.51 to get him. And I mean, in the case of Arch Manning, that may be okay. But what about the little guy that's the wide receiver that's third string that has a buyout? I mean, certain players I'm okay with a buyout, but not the third string wideout who's not making a dent in your lineup, even though Florida State has this provision in there. It's bonkers, and it's ridiculous in my opinion.
Yeah, I whatever gets us to the point of the poaching guys off the rosters, actually literally contacting guys, I think there has to be, if you want a guy bad enough, there needs to be a price to pay for that.
I'm fine with that. Not what Florida State's trying to do.
Here's the other side though of that. Agents are trying to take 20% off these kids right now for what? For what? So
that's kind of going away, by the way. That's actually numbers are coming down, but
for what? And so there's a game. I think there's a game that we play on both sides of that. But I think the main thing is something needs to be there to keep the absolute just going recruiting guys off of rosters. If you want a guy bad enough, all right, then do it. But there has to be something, a price to that.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's that is, I mean, there's not if my daughter's going into the workforce right now, okay, she just graduated. If a company came to her with an offer that we're going to pay you X in year one, and we have your rights for the next 4 years that you won't get a raise, I don't care what that company is. I wouldn't care if it's her dream job that she always wanted to be at. I'd tell, and if I told you that there had to be a buyout for that contract that some other company would have to pay, I would tell you to go pound sand. And I'd advise my daughter not to take it. Period. I mean, that's bull. I mean, you're going to go in for 4 years. Oh, you can't. If we don't want you to have a raise, you can't have a raise, and then you can't go get on the free market afterwards because we've got a buyout against you for that amount. No chance, man. That's crap.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the college.
I am not.
The coaches have to deal with it.
Well, the coaches have to deal with it, but the reality of it is there's no cap on their There's no cap on what a coach's salary can be. There is a cap that the players are dealing with.
Well, yeah. Well, we'll see. That's how Sonneman says there is.
Well, I mean, there is right now.
Yeah.
De facto, whether it continues or not is a different story. But this is a university trying to take advantage of their situation, and it's.
Now, I will say this: I'm against a college athlete it's going to get to where you have 5 years. That's going to come down. You have 5 years, period.
Okay, so your first year you're going to get 4 years at the same rate.
That's what I'm saying. I disagree with that. I think the max you can do is 2 years. I think kids should have to do. I think there should be 2-year deals. And if you want to leave after a year, all right, then there's a buyout with that comes.
Okay.
But so I agree. I don't think anything should be. If you have a 5-year window as a college athlete, you cannot have 3 or 4 year contracts. No chance. You can probably have a 2-year contract to start with. But anything beyond that, I totally agree with that. But I also don't think it should be year to year with these guys. I think well, if you want to do that, that's fine. But then colleges have to decide who they want.
Yes.
But I say this: I think the vast majority of them should be 2-year deals.
All right, fellas. Bobby, I need you to tell everyone about Omaha Steaks, please.
All that ranting and raving made me hungry. Look, 4th of July coming up. You guys know that I love Omaha Steaks. I also think it's a great gift for my parents. I did it for my dad's Father's Day a couple weeks ago. We've eaten it 2 weekends in a row. From handcrafted steaks to family grilling favorites, Omaha Steaks delivers the world's best steak experience for all your 4th of July grilling plans. Enjoy USDA certified tender steaks, juicy burgers, and so much more. They have a really big special going on right now. During their 4th of July sale, you can get 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Trust me, just type in their website, omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners, after that 50% off site-wide, get an extra $45 off with promo code ONTexas at checkout. Special terms do apply, but literally you can get a great deal right now, $125, $200 worth of steaks and meals for as low as $75 if you do it all right. Again, that is omahasteaks.com. Omaha Steaks has been America's original butcher since 1917. It's a family-owned company with more than 100 years of expertise in the industry. Get fired up for the 4th of July with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide during their 4th of July sale, and for an extra $45 off, use promo code ONTexas at checkout. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $45 off with promo code ONTexas at checkout. See site for more details. That's omahasteaks.com.
Hey, Bobby, the chat's hilarious. They think we're fighting. We're not fighting. But if anybody needs to choose who to stay with, if they pick your side, guys, pick your side. Come on.
I am not concerned. I will be clear about this. When Jerry and I fight, it's like two brothers bickering.
It's hilarious.
It's not ill-intended.
Pick your party.
I like Daniel Earp's comment. He says, I feel like Bobby would make sure I was fed and Jerry would have nothing but condiments in the fridge for me.
That's because I would make sure that you would take a job that allowed for a raise.
No. Look. One thing I will not.
That's why I would help feed you. Unlike Jerry that wants to, create all this, make them pay a buyout for you to get a $1 raise. That's ridiculous.
One thing I won't mix is mayo with Tito's. That will never happen. For anybody asking, though.
Yeah, in your scenario, Jerry, person that wanted a $1 raise would have to pay a buyout. That doesn't make sense. So, just saying.
All right, well, moving on this morning.
Are you actually drinking Tito's this morning?
No, you drank water.
Water.
Okay.
Water.
I was like, what?
Water.
He drank water, unless he poured it in that bottle.
Oh.
Michael Schuler here says, hook from beautiful Leander, Texas. Could we see kids moving up their commitment before July 1st to get in before the House settlement?
No, that window already passed, Michael. So that was the minute the House settlement was approved, everything went retroactive to that. And we did see a lot of forward pushing of money, particularly by the Texas Tech softball team, frankly, more than we did most football teams, because the football window, transfer portal window, was kind of closed by that point, or not closed, but it had been picked over by that point. So we've seen it more from the other sports. Texas Tech softball clearly did that. We didn't see that much in football. They did get them all in before the settlement, but the settlement was happened actually like 2 weeks after the big run of players in the portal. So, but they did take advantage of it. I don't know now. There's nothing that they can do because NIL Go has been instituted and up and running for a couple of weeks now, or at least a week, I believe.
All right, a lot more questions to jump over to this morning. Will Burrow says, Bobby and Jerry, who do y'all think will be the primary back, Wisner or Baxter?
Wisner.
I agree.
And look, because Cedric Baxter he's in the next stage of his rehab. And I've said this before. If a football game was played tomorrow, he's not playing in a football game. He's not taking helmet hits on his knee if practice starts June 28th. It's not happening. That's not where he's at. So there's a natural progression with him with this. And look, he had a major knee injury. If he bounces back and he's the best guy, then he's going to be the best guy. And I think he's a tremendous all-around football player. I think he can make he would have the ability to make all the calls in pass pro from the running back position like a quarterback or center very early on in his career. That's a pretty elite running back. But he had a major knee injury. There's no reason to rush him back. I think he is a very good player, but I think Wisner is the back. And we'll see if that changes throughout the season as Cedric Baxter gets his feet underneath him in contact football again and regains his confidence, because there's a process you have to go through with all of this.
And speaking of Wisner, I saw these two comments. I wanted to bring them up. Kyle says, if I'm not mistaken, Texas isn't scheduled to lose a quarterback, running back, or wide receiver after this season. But then Jay says, Wisner might go pro after this season. So my question to y'all is, do you see a world where that happens?
If Wisner put up 1,000 yards again, he should go pro. That's like if you have two really healthy, solid seasons and you're a mid-round type pick, you should go pro. That's the way I look at it.
I've got no problem if he goes pro, if he's got the rating. Look, the thing about Trey Wisner is so interesting. Did you when he first signed with Texas, he was playing wide receiver at DeSoto, Jerry?
Yeah.
And I saw him, and I was like, "There's no way that guy can make it at running back at Texas." He's 175 pounds, dripping wet. And you know what? All he proceeded to do was prove everybody wrong with his mentality and his ability. Yep. And now he's sitting at 200 pounds, 205. And I'm telling you now, the comparison I have for him is Barron Sorrell. And what I mean by that, and if y'all have watched this show for a while with me, every time I saw Barron Sorrell, every 3 months, I saw a little bit different physical player. Kept adding weight, kept less lean. Okay, now he's getting bigger up to, now his lower body's looking a little. And over 4 years' time, you ended up with a guy that you didn't think, I never thought Barron Sorrell would get that big. He didn't look like he was naturally. That is a lot of hard work, consistent work over a long period of time. That's what Trey Wisner's doing, in my opinion. And he hasn't been injured. So, and Barron Sorrell hadn't been injured either, right? Not seriously. And so they're able to continue that body build through time. I think that's been huge for Trey. And so if he gets the grade, I would go too if I were him.
All right. And then South KMX, while we're talking about running backs, says, what about James Simon?
I think James Simon quietly had a very, very good spring. Texas is very high on James Simon. We've been very high on James Simon. I think he's going to be a tremendous football player. I think he's an instinctive running back. He's got really good hands. I think he's got really good vision, really good feel for the position. I think he's going to be really, really good. And he'll push his way into some time this year. It's up to Christian Clark and Jarrett Gibson to keep him from getting more time as the season moves along. But there's going to be really good competition early from those guys to see who becomes RB2 and 3 until Cedric Baxter is back fully 100% in football mode. Which, look, could that be August? Could it be September? It's going to be one of the two.
And then roll left. Why is 1,000 yards the goal in a 16 or 17 game season? We still hold on to that number like it's 1995.
Because I think that answered the question. There's more games this year, or there's more games now. These guys are going – running backs don't leave high school wanting to carry the ball 35 times in college games anymore. So they're just not going to get that many touches. And if you have depth and you're rotating your backs and you've recruited the position well from a depth standpoint, you're not going to have – I don't foresee that guy where he's going to carry it 350 times for 1,800 yards at Texas. I think you're going to have guys who split time in the position. They have strength. Some guys have strengths. Maybe guys an outside zone. Maybe guys an inside zone. Maybe guys a pass blocker. Guys better at receiving it out of the backfield. But I think you're just going to see more of a rotation. And so I think 1,000 yards in a 2 or 3 backfield is actually where things are headed. Unless you get just a great player that's going to say, I'm going for 1,800. The other guys are going for 5.
All right, guys. And then let's jump over to some recruiting questions. So we'll start with this one from Antoine. Is Jermaine Bishop more explosive than Deshae Johnson? How do they compare?
That's an interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Deshae Johnson was extraordinarily explosive. I mean, the problem with Deshae, one of the reasons why he didn't make it is that may have been his only aspect. He didn't. What do you think of that, Jerry? I mean,
I think Jermaine Bishop is more. I think he's more explosive, and that's not a knock. It's just like a strength. It's like a compliment because you see it. I mean, you just see it all over the place every time he touches the ball, whether it's at corner, whether it's in the return game, whether it's on offense. I mean, every time he does something, it's explosive. I think he's a little more explosive. I think it's time for our guest.
Yeah, it is. He's here.
Go ahead, Bobby. You do the introduction. I'll bring you in.
Look, when I think of 64 at the University of Texas, I think of 2 guys. I think of Kasey Studdard on the national championship team, and I think of Casey Hampton, the defensive tackle. Those are the 64s I think of. Casey, how you doing this morning, buddy?
Man, I'm doing great, guys. Sorry, I got kids now, man. They're everywhere, and I get distracted with them moving stuff, and I'm like, and I forget time. So I apologize for being a little bit late. But no, man, I'm doing great. Took a little family trip this past week out to Italy. We were blessed enough to get the opportunity to take the whole family out there and take a little tour. So a little spoiled right now coming back here. This heat's a little different than that Italian heat. I'll tell you that.
It is. It is. Hey, Casey, thanks for joining us. We're 64 days out from Texas football. We talked to you about a year ago this time about the Longhorns and where you thought the program was and what they needed to do in the coming year. I'm just going to put it back to you again. What do you think Steve Sarkisian's done and where he's at and what you want to see from this season?
You know, I think Sarkisian's done a heck of a job. I mean, we got all these guys. We're finally back in getting guys into the NFL, and that kind of show. Those are your core team. Those are your guys that need to step up week in and week out, and they do. And that's NFL talent. And you always think going into every college kid thinks they're going to make it to the NFL, and it's hard. I mean, it's extremely hard to get to make it in there, and seeing the talent back to that level where we got first round picks and we're drafting 11 guys, 13 guys, whatever it was the last couple of years. I mean, each year or whatever. It's been 20 something in the last 2 years.
23.
23. That's fantastic. Like that just shows that we're getting talent. They're staying. We're developing them. They're kicking butt. It's good to see that back, and you start seeing the wins starting to stack on, because then you got those guys. Now you got to put your real core in there. Your D linemen, your O linemen, your special teams guys. It's building your team from there. And it's fun to see. It's good. It's good football again. I like it. I like good football.
It is good football again.
Hey, Kasey, I got a question I've always wanted to ask you, so I'm throwing it out there now. As a guy that played football all the way growing up and into the NFL, what was your hardest collision ever in the game? Because you're a physical guy and you told everybody about it after you wiped them out. Is there one collision that stands among all others in your career?
The pros, yeah, there's a few. There's this guy from Tampa Bay. Michael Griffin always loved me telling this story, but there's a guy from Tampa Bay. He was like one of those Landry type guys, like it's a little too big to be a safety, but they're a safety. Yeah. And he hit me on a kickoff return, and like he bent my face mask in. Wow. He knocked me out the game, gave me the worst thing I ever had in my life. But we both kind of got to the sideline, I guess. But that was probably the hardest hit. He gave me a black eye.
He gave you a black eye through your helmet?
Yeah, and then we had played a Thursday night the next game, so Monday we had practice. And I go to put my helmet on, and I couldn't put it on because my face mask was pushed up to my eye.
That's wild. I was not expecting that.
And you take a hit like that, and I ain't gonna lie, I was gun shy for a few years after that. I was like, I don't want to do kickoff return. That sucks. It's true though. It's just they barely touched my shoulder, and I just went stinger all the way down to my hand. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Hey, Kasey, you mentioned that you got kiddos. You went to Italy. What else are you up to these days? What's taking up most of your time?
I'm still catering. I shut the truck down. With my kids being at 10, 8, and 4 now, it's one of those things where I was missing ball games. I was missing this and that, and it sucked being in the truck, getting pictures of hey, we won 8-5. It's like. And I couldn't stand it. So a couple years ago, we just switched everything into catering. So, same barbecue, same everything. Is just we're doing just strictly catering now. But we're doing big gigs like 500, 1,000 people. We do F1 every year, so we're capable of doing all that. And it's it's nice because you get a couple of those, back-to-back months. You're kind of sets your year out.
Hey, Kasey, we have on Wednesday, we call it Hump Day with Hills. Tony Hills comes on with us, and we've asked him this question.
I love Tony.
This question. He's awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't know he had a Debbie's cream pie addiction, but I guess we know now after last week. But little Debbie's cream pie addiction. So, hey, tell me this mentality for an offensive lineman. If you met a young offensive lineman and you had a conversation with him, what are you looking for from one of those guys from a mentality standpoint? Because you had a great one.
Me and Lyle talked about that a few times. I think the ones with the most mentality are the guys that play both ways in high school. And sorry, got a craziness going on in the back of the house. So
it's okay.
Move into my son's room over here and sit in my chair that he stole, one of those things. No, it looks better in his room. I'm like, oh, so I don't have a chair now. But we'll talk about that later. Me and Lau, it was more of we played defensive line as well. So we had that aggressive mentality to, try to blow up a running back or, take people out. That's the mentality of a D lineman. And I think that helped us to being old linemen because we had a little more aggression in us.
Interesting.
And that's really, I don't know. That's a lot of it. And I think mentality is just people that like to finish. It's not just like a beat your chest thing, but it's like just what you do, you know.
Yeah, it's completing the circle. You don't want to just hit them once. You want to knock them out, right?
Well, I mean, it slows them down, especially those big like those big 340s. You know, like you get them on the ground, the more and more times they get up, they're going to be tired by the third quarter comes, and that's when you start breaking them 40, 50-yard runs. You saw that with like Cedric Benson and that, you remember him, and then with Selvin Young and Jamal Charles. But Jamal Charles, you give him a seam, and he was so fast. God, he was so fast. And I'll be always sitting on the sideline. I'll go to practice every year, and I'll be sitting there next to Huff, and I'll be talking to him, and we'll be watching. Like they're kind of like they're 7-on-7. It's 7-on-7.
Pass skeleton.
But it's really fast, and it's against the scout team. But the receivers and running backs are full speed. They're doing timing stuff. And I'll sit there with Huff, and I'll be like, "Oh, he's really fast." And then I'll always go back like, "So he's like, is he fast like Jamal Charles?" He goes, "Heck no." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, so that's okay." So you're like, "No, not even close." I'm like, "Okay." So I forget how truly fast Jamal Charles was, because you see people with speed, but you put him next to Jamal Charles, and Jamal Charles got him by 10 yards.
Yeah, Jamal Charles was Tyreek Hill fast for people that didn't see Jamal in his prime. That's how fast. That's good. Hey, I have a question for you that relates to this year's team. There was a time when you guys were a young offensive line group with new starters. Texas has 4, maybe 3 new starters. One of the starters is going to be playing a new position this year at center, Cole Hudson. What is it like that group trying to come together for the first time, really? And what do you think about Texas trying to do that with so many new starters on the offensive line?
Well, that's why you come to Texas. That's why you get a scholarship here. Is when it's your time to go, you better step up and play at the same level or better than the person before you. And so that's the main reason why you come to Texas, and you can't let that fall. But I think that attitude comes back into it, and whoever really wants it and to work at it and get better. Practice is big. You got that. It's hard because it's hard when you're young because it's back to back to back, and you're mentally drained too because you're watching so much film on technique and this and that. But that's where you earn your position, is when you go from practice to practice, no MAs, and just keep climbing and getting better every day, and the willingness to go out there and be like, well, I'm out here, might as well get better, At least that's what I told myself. I was like, well, you're out here, might as well get better. And then I'll kind of just give me that little bit of energy to, let's go get ready for the season. And that's kind of what I put in my head, to get through those hard double day practice. But these kids don't even have 2-a-days anymore. So it's like, I don't even want to hear them being freaking exhausted. They can kiss my ass. Because 2-a-days used to be for real. Like 2-a-days used to be serious. You go back out there at 3:00 in the afternoon and have another 18 period practice, that's just straight hitting. I mean, that really separated the men from the boys. But I understand like heat exhaustion and stuff, but man, drink your water. It sucked, but you could really tell with that is who the ones will be able to survive in the fourth quarter in a hot game,
Hey, so Kasey, this is I think I'm interested to hear what you have to say on this. One of the great wins that Texas has had outside of national championship in the last 25 years was at Ohio State in 05. Yeah. Texas obviously begins the season at Ohio State. It's not the same scenario because it's an 11 a.m. kickoff. But for the Texas fans that are going up to that game that have never been before, talk what you remember about that experience and that game, because that was one of the great wins for Texas in the last 25, 30, 40 years.
I'll tell you this, the Ohio State fans that came here the following year, they were good. They were nice, polite people, you know what I mean? But my mom and aunt, they said, I'll never go back to Ohio at all. I'll never go back to Columbus. It's because, they're getting cussed at the whole time. Like, not just like belittled type stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Just a lot more than just your team sucks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you can't get cabs after the game because the cab drivers won't pick up a Longhorn fan, stuff like that. So be prepared for that. Yeah, I mean, our team had to actually call them in so our parents and other people could get their rides back to their hotels.
Very cool.
But I mean, it's a hostile environment. It's a great place to play. It's loud. It's electric, and it's it's a cool experience for sure. Especially if you go in there and whip their ass. We beat them there at night, so
Yeah.
they were rocking in there.
Hey, Kasey, we have a couple photos for you to look at here. Just give you a chance. That's a pretty sweet one, right?
Yeah, Michigan Rose Bowl right there.
Is that the Michigan one? Cleve Bryant in the background. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you got next for us, Blake?
No.
Look at that belly and no hair. You got more hair now.
No.
No.
I mean, I don't think the first time I ever grew my beard out, I was like, man, I got a pretty sweet beard. But I lost my hair about freshman year of college, and it just didn't look the same. So I just, I said, all right, my head's shaped good enough. I'll do that,
That looks like it's from the Colorado Big 12 championship game.
That's 70-3. That's celebrations.
Yeah. That's Vince sitting over there on the sideline, not worried about anything.
Well, that's a young me right there.
How do you know it's young you? How do you know that you're young there? No beard?
No, just I ain't fitting into my face mask yet. You know what I mean? Just a little bit, you know what I mean? It's just I didn't have my neck on me yet, just a little bit smaller right there. But I think that was either my first year starting or the year before. I think it was my first year starting. The sophomore year.
There you go.
Yeah,
that looks like a guy that wants to hunt. You're getting ready to go hunting on a football field there.
Well, the thing that sucked though is like Lau's a lot more intelligent than me, so people would always be talking crap, and I always be looking back at him like, and so Lau would always be like, all right, we're say something real intelligent, smart ass, you know what I mean? And it always kind of just chilled me out a little bit, But it was just people always wanted to talk crap, and Lau would always have my back, and like a little Bash brother type thing.
There you go.
Hey, Kasey, the last thing I had for you, and I asked Tony Hills this, and this is one of my favorite questions to ask. Everybody remembers all the guys that made it off of y'all's teams, that got drafted, that were all Big 12, all Americans. Was there one guy that was at Texas when you were there that he didn't make it for whatever reason? It could have been injury, it could have been off the field, that you say was the most talented guy that didn't make it during your time? Was there anybody that was like?
Yeah, I mean, Ramonce Taylor. Ramonce Taylor was a freak. I would have loved to see what he could have done in the NFL.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's more that that we kind of lost earlier in our years. Like, I thought Dorian McCulloch was like the fastest human being I've ever seen.
Yes.
It's. I don't know. Yeah, I think Ramonce probably. It would have been cool to see him, see his speed in the NFL, because he would have been like a Deshaun Jackson type. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. He had long limbs and just had that quick explosiveness, man.
And he had giant hands.
Yeah, it's like I try to explain. There's like a difference between long speed, like get up on you and then kind of run away from you, and the other guys that just like have that first 5 yards and they've already created separation.
Yeah, so much separation, you ain't going to catch
that guy that can create separation in the first 5 yards.
Yeah, and he can go backwards to go forwards faster than anybody in the world.
Yeah, that's true.
Hey, Kasey, thank you so much, bud.
Thank you, Kasey.
Happy you're doing well. Hope you had a great time in Italy, and best of luck to your catering business and raising those kiddos. One of the guys in the chat said that you were his middle school offensive line coach. He said hello, John Burrows as well.
So. Oh, yeah, John Burrows. He's a good kid, man. It's crazy now because I only did it 1 year, and then I'll see these guys that are, they're graduating high school now, and they're out of high school, they're going into college. I'm like, and they'll walk up to me and I'll say, what's up? Well, like old times, but it's just wild how fast time flies.
Yeah. Kasey, thank you so much. Always be a Longhorn, bud. You take care of yourself, man.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, fellas.
Hook
Hook 'em.
64 days till football season, Jerry. You ready for it, bud?
Oh, absolutely. Are you kidding me? I'm ready for it now. Yeah, great job, Bobby, getting Kasey on. That was a long time getting him back on the show, and one of my favorite players.
He's just a fun dude, man.
Yeah.
Just a fun dude.
Somebody asked, is Kasey still living in Texas? He lives in the Austin area.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, guys, we got another super chat this morning from Kyle. Thank you, Kyle. He says in Sark's interview with Greg McElroy, he mentions Nick Brooks in the same breath as Brandon Baker when talking about offensive line starters. This caught me off guard. Does Nick have a chance to start?
It shouldn't have caught you off guard if we've been talking, listening to us.
Look,
now, not in the starting framework. We haven't been talking about that, but we told you guys, like, if we were to re-rank, Jerry and I have talked about this, if we were to re-rank recruits 1 to 25 of this number one ranked recruiting class, Nick Brooks would be our number one. Right, Jerry? I mean, we talked about this. Now, Jonah Williams, we got
Justice Harry. I mean, there's a lot of talent, but of guys that came in the spring. I mean, look, I ran into a couple of people on the road in May, and they're like, guy's going to be a first-round pick. Like, no hesitation. And now he's got to he's got to do his part, but he's going to play this year.
He needs to stay on the straight and narrow based on some issues that he had off field.
But I'll say this. I think there's a reason that he was up in St. Louis with Arch and Simmons and Wingo. And this is part of helping a guy maximize his talent. Put him around those people. Because he's going to play this year. And look, I think he's going to push this year. He's too talented.
And speaking of offensive linemen from that class, Splendid Daddy with the super chat, another super chat, thank you, says if Fasusi chose Texas, do you think he would have been in the mix to start?
Only the mix to compete. It only depends on how open your mind is to make a position move. If you're like, I'm a left tackle, that's all I am, that's all I want to be, then no, Trevor Goosby's the starting left tackle at Texas, and nobody's unseating him unless he gets injured. You know, right tackle, if you're saying, oh, I'll move over the right tackle, then maybe you can get in the competition. It's up to Brandon Baker to hold everybody off. Nick Brooks did take a few reps at right tackle in the spring. It depends on how open your mind is. But if you come in as this is my position, this is what I'm going to be, and I'm not moving off of that, then no, not at left tackle.
Nick Brooks is a more athletic Cam Williams. How's that for a description for you?
Yeah, I like that.
All right, Bobby, before we get to our last few questions, I'm going to let you tell everyone one more time how they can escape the insurance trap.
Absolutely. Our friends over at BKCW have been with us for a while, and we appreciate their sponsorship of each and every Friday morning coffee and football. Today's show brought to you by BKCW Insurance. BKCW takes you out of the insurance trap by providing your business with actual risk management consulting, not just price quoting, operating out of its headquarters in Austin. And owned by a UT grad, BKCW uses a 5-step process to identify your business's weak spots, design a plan, execute it, and monitor your situation throughout the year so that you can lower your business's insurance costs while effectively managing its risk. BKCW has already helped some of the most well-known construction companies, restaurant groups, school districts, nonprofits, breweries, you name it, in Central Texas escape the insurance trap. So if your business needs or should look into its insurance situation, go to bkcw.com or send an email, info@bkcw.com, to get started with a free risk assessment or claims audit and escape the insurance trap. Again, that's info@bkcw or 512-250-5055.
Thank you, Bobby. And I also need to tell everyone about one of our other sponsors this morning in Huel. And summer doesn't slow down, neither should your nutrition. Huel Black Edition Ready to Drink is a complete meal that's ready when you are. You just toss it in your bag, hit the road, and fuel up without missing a beat. Their Black Edition Ready to Drink is a total game changer. It's a perfectly balanced meal that's going to save you time. It tastes good. It's good for you. 35 grams of protein, 27 vitamins and minerals, high fiber, low sugar. You're going to feel full, focused, and ready for your day. Now, Huel's already sold over 500 million meals around the world, and now it's your turn to try it. New customers get 15% off plus a free gift at Huel.com when you use promo code ONTexas. And I'm a big believer in Huel. It's summertime. I'm being pulled 100 different ways at any given time, so I don't always have time to get a good meal in me. So that's when I rely on Huel to come in clutch. They save me time. They save me money. There's no prep, no cleanup. I just grab it and go. So start saving your own time and money without compromising your nutrition today with this exclusive offer for new customers. Remember, that's 15% off plus a free gift when you use promo code ONTexas at Huel.com. That's Huel, Huel.com, promo code ONTexas. See the description for terms and conditions. Skip the stress, not the nutrition. Try Huel today for complete nutrition bottled. All right, let's see here. Some more super chats, but before we get to those, one thing I forgot to mention this morning, guys. Texas baseball picked up another pitcher yesterday, and this is a big one, Bobby and Jerry. Hayden LeFew out of Wake Forest, left-handed pitcher. Man, I think he was number 14 in the 64 analytics portal rankings. With the addition of him, Texas now has the number 3 portal class, and they are just filling every position of need, adding elite arms. So a huge pickup for Sloss and his staff yesterday.
Yeah, doing a great job, man. I mean, so if you had to rank them, Tenney's number 1, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Easily. I mean,
I would put him. I mean, especially when you look at need and talent, and both offensively and defensively, I'd have Tenney as my number 1.
Yeah, for
sure. Followed by.
Is there one they think's a sleeper of this group? Maybe.
They really like Caleb Freeman a lot, just because his versatility. He can play pretty much anywhere. A big bat as well. They like Morocnik quite a bit, due to his bat. I mean, it's going to be. I was talking with somebody this morning, and I said it's really going to be interesting to see how these position battles take place, because you've added so much talent through the portal, and then you still have a lot of returning talent as well. So obviously a great problem to have, but it's going to be fun to watch this all unfold up until next February.
Who are the ones that are the absolute starters out of that group?
So you got Tenney,
Sarah.
Yeah, Tenney, Timo Becerra. I think it's going to be a lock to play at shortstop. I think Freeman is going to be out there somewhere as well, where I don't know 100%. And then, man, probably Morocnik, and I would even say Robbins has a good chance as well, just because you've lost 2 of your outfielders. And then I was told that, LeFew may even work himself into a starting role. I mean, may start out at reliever and then eventually get there. It sounds like they got Friday and Saturday taken care of, but that Sunday, the word that was used to describe it to me was bloodbath. It's going to be an absolute bloodbath to see who gets that Sunday starter role. So, like I said, a great, great problem to have for sure. All right, guys. Well, as I said, more super chats this morning from the Loin Girder. Thank you for your super chat as always. He says, I'm really rooting for Aaron Butler to get a chance. He seems to be working his tail off, and I think it says a lot that he went up to St. Louis for the Wingo camp.
Yeah, I mean, August is going to be big for him because the 3 freshmen are all really good. And I'm not including Michael Terry, but he's got the longest runway there. I mean, he's got a longer runway in development. But it's a huge August coming up for Aaron Butler, because the freshmen are going to be even better than they were in the spring. And so we've talked about this, whether it was Parker Livingstone in the spring, whether it was Aaron Butler in the spring. The guys who are a year ahead of the guys coming in, they have the first opportunity, and who can hold those guys off. And this is going to be a big August for Aaron Butler, because he's got to He's got to make his statement in August because the freshmen will just keep getting better.
And then a follow-up to that, fellas, Roll Left says, do you think that Butler could see any punt or kick return playing time?
He could, but I don't think, just based on what little I saw in the spring, he's not a natural fielder of the punt. So I would bet that there's going to be somebody better than him to return punts. Kick return, I did not see enough. But punt return, he dropped 3 in the first practice. So you don't correct that bit much whenever you have some other guys that are highly talented athletes that just field punts better.
And one other super chat this morning, this one from Rhett. Is Hudson a lock at center? Could Robertson make some noise and potentially push Hudson to left guard?
Look, I think he's a lock to be the starter at center. The only way I could see something shifting there, and I don't think it will, would be if Nato got injured, DJ Campbell got injured. But Nate Kibble's going to be a good player. Texas actually has some good guard depth, in my opinion. They may not have seen the field a lot, but they have good guard depth. So I think the plan is for Cole Hudson to be the center this year. He's waited his turn. Somebody mentioned Daniel Cruz. Cruz is going to be a really, really good football player. Really good.
And guys, we'll close with a recruiting question. This one from Jay Lee. And he says, Jerry, if Johnson picks on the 28th, does that basically solidify Gravel going elsewhere?
No, absolutely not. No, Texas is not turning down either one of those guys if they want to come. And that means it would be 5. It would go over 4. We've been saying that. Look, if Texas wouldn't take all those guys right now, they wouldn't be making final plays. They will take both those guys, and the number will go to 5 if both those guys want in.
And, of course, we went over this at the beginning of the show, fellas, but 5 decisions to watch this weekend.
Yeah, so Chase Calicut, Malachi Lee Simeon. I don't think this is Texas Day, barring a change. Malachi Lee, even if he commits to Michigan, Texas will continue to recruit him. James Johnson on Saturday. It's going to be Georgia or Texas, Texas or Georgia. That thing's gone back and forth. I know where the picks are. I also know yesterday there was a little more chatter on the Texas side. We'll see where the chatter is today. Xavier Griffin on Sunday will be very interesting because I think Alabama's had some confidence. I think Texas has had some confidence in that one. He's originally, I think, a lot of families from Tuscaloosa. And I think some people are thinking, oh, that could be a big deal. We'll see what ends up being the big deal at the end of the day in this recruitment. But Alabama's had confidence. Texas has had confidence. We'll see which way this one rolls because that's 48 hours, a long time away on this one. And by the way, the announcements today, Calicut's announcing at OT7, 7-on-7. Malachi Lee's tonight. Obviously, that's 7:30 our time, but that's 1:30 in Hawaii. Damari Simeon's afternoon, but he's not that's going to be – that's not – I don't even put that in with Texas. So those are your times.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And obviously, with all these decisions going on, there's no better time than now to sign up over at ontexasfootball.com. Remember, we can't be on here all the time, so to get the latest breaking news when it comes to recruiting, team news, whatever it may be, head on over to ontexasfootball.com. New members, if you sign up using promo code OTFOG, you'll get a full year for just $39.95. But only if you use that promo code. Remember, new members only at ontexasfootball.com. And Bobby, what's later today?
Yeah, later today, we've got the live stream. Rod, CJ from the Manning Passing Academy. Hopefully, Arch Manning is out there. We might have an interview up with Arch later today as well. So keep your eyes peeled for that. But really, it's recruiting time at some level, and we will be tracking all of that. There have been kind of nuances in the last couple 24, 48 hours that Jerry continues to track for everybody and has done a really good job of doing so. So make sure you check that out on texasfootball.com. We also have a couple of pieces ready that we're going to do for tomorrow that talk about not only recruiting, but also I'm interviewing a lawyer about the House settlement and the repercussions there as well. So it'll be an interesting week.
By the way, I totally missed that CC's Pizza made their way into the chat. I don't know when that happened. Yeah, but the CC's Alfredo pizza is phenomenal.
Great. That's
But
great stuff.
phenomenal.
Oh my God.
Man, I can put a hurting on a CC's buffet.
Yes. Absolutely.
Bobby's
Maybe-
not
maybe
down, but
time
we'll
to do
go, Jerry. We'll go.
Maybe time to do coffee and CC's one morning.
Man, I can kill a CC's buffet.
Man, where is y'all's? I mean, anyways, I'll just take that and go somewhere else. I can't handle y'all's food choices. Mayo and corn dog. I mean, what?
I generally healthy, but man, when CC's is there, you got to give in.
No comment.
All right, well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Football presented by BKCW. We want to thank them, along with Omaha Steaks and Huel, for sponsoring today's show. Of course, thank you all for tuning in as well. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell so you're notified anytime we go live, post content, whatever it may be. And between that and on TexasFootball.com, we got you covered around the clock. Of course, we'll be back on Monday morning. Hope you all have a great weekend. So for Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Blake Monroe.